DDG episode 121. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? We're doing another night recording, which means I needed to bust out the caffeinated beverages. I'm going to still, pretend Coca-Cola sponsors us by saying, Coca-Cola. Dave, I hope you're enjoying a Coca-Cola product. This is going to work, Dave, I swear.
Yeah, if you want me to start drinking pop again to just get us sponsored, I've been essentially almost completely pop free except for a couple, like maybe every other week.
What a great story that would be if Coca-Cola is what makes you break from having good health.
I've dropped like 25 pounds. 20 pounds.
How's about 30 extra? It'd be real great.
Yeah, you try to start drinking Coke again and gain 30 pounds back, so I'll be right around 250 again, which I don't want. So.
This will either lead to them suing us or sponsoring us, but either way, I get in the door.
That's Michael at digitaldaysgaming.com, not me.
It's going to work one way or the other. We'll see how this goes.
All right, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that is not sponsored currently by Coke.
Currently.
It hits your podcast feed every Thursday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, unless you are a Patreon subscriber, and you get it a day early if you spend $5 a month for us. We're also live on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, which typically has been Tuesday nights. I think my schedule might start leveling a little bit with the store change, but I actually might have another store change happening, hopefully, but we'll see how that goes. So but with that, everything else is linked in the show notes. Click the show notes, check them out. There's links to Discord, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Teesprings. Everything is there, and then sharing the show and reviews are always super helpful. So retweeting, sharing stuff on Facebook on your personal page, as well as leaving a review, and if possible, a written review. Spotify allows reviews recently, so anything to help us in the algorithm that we don't really understand, but just to get more ears and eyes on Digital Days is always super helpful, especially in these lighter news weeks where, like we talked about last week, there's a whole bunch of games out, whether it's Horizon or Destiny or Elden Ring or Gran Turismo. Like, there's all this stuff out, and all these news companies are like, we're not going to talk about anything right now. So.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about, so I'll just jump right into the news right now. This one came out a couple days ago. God of War TV series is apparently in the middle of negotiations with Amazon Prime. So Amazon, last week we talked about how they are jumping on a potential Take-Two TV show, a Life is Strange TV show, and a Disco Elysium TV show. Looks like they are negotiating with Sony now to do a live-action God of War TV show. I'm gonna say safe bet it's gonna be the rebooted God of War, and not old God of War.
Way to go out on a limb there, bud.
Yeah, I'm just taking that shot in the dark. The production company behind it the producers, looks like they're looking at people from The Expanse and Wheel of Time, which is two TV shows that are on Amazon. I don't know much about Wheel of Time. I feel like that's a show that came out recently that I haven't heard anything good or bad.
Conversations about Wheel of Time, mostly like being recommended as like looking for a new thing to check out, and people are like, it seems like it's a love-hate. Like, I really liked it, and somebody else is like, yeah, I'm not watching that. So.
Yeah, and I'm on the other end where I just haven't heard anyone talk about it outside of when it first dropped. But then the other producers from The Expanse, which I heard a ton of people really enjoy, and I think it's on its 5th or 6th season. So, the Wheel of Time, kind of like a period, I think that has that medieval fantasy vibe, so they could probably do production-wise for a God of War thing. Mm-hmm. And then The Expanse is like a sci-fi drama that has a pretty deep lore because it's based on a book series. So, this seems like a good team to work with it, and Amazon is still desperate for, their Game of Thrones. And this is why they're putting $1 billion into the Lord of the Rings thing, and then now they're.
And I think they're also loading up. They're getting ready for their NFL contract. So they want to make sure that they have advertisements and things to get people to subscribe to Prime. And I believe you'll have to have Amazon Prime, I think, to watch the football games. So they're trying to just make it more fortuitive to have Prime and to start going after these things to kind of hold the people. So because what they don't want is people to essentially have Prime from Labor Day to Valentine's Day and then just drop it. Like, oh, I just have Prime for the football season and then I'll drop it. Like, they want a reason, and then they'll use the NFL, whether you like football or don't like football. And in terms of television ratings from the sports standpoint, NFL is king. And it gets a bunch of eyes, and so they can use this as a huge advertisement. It's like we've seen tons of trailer premieres during football games. We've seen tons of movie trailers, and just advertisements for shows, like constantly, like during the Super Bowl, like, oh, check out our new episode of this airing right after the Super Bowl. Like, they're trying to get people that are there because of how many eyes are there, and they need to have the content to show.
Yeah, I'm sure however long, say the NFL contract's 5 years, I'm sure they have a table going like, okay, year 1 of the NFL contract will have the Lord of the Rings show. Year 2 of the NFL contract will have, God of War or Life is Strange. And they're going for like a wide range of different type of video games that it does feel like they're just throwing like a dart at a dartboard and seeing, what hits. But they're at least going with a wide range where it's like Life is Strange will probably be like the teen drama market. And then God of War is going to be the more mature market. Take-Two is going to be in between that, most likely. So they're at least trying a bunch of different things. And like we mentioned last week, Sony Pictures and Sony Movies or Sony Television are just having a field day right now by not being locked down to any particular
They're the
company.
Ultimate free agent, like, right now.
Yeah. And like Uncharted was a successful, so I'm assuming it drives up the price for God of War. They're looking at probably everything they can. The Twisted Metal stuff is going to be on Peacock. So there's a bunch of different venues for like PlayStation franchises right now, as opposed to, was it like 7 years ago when they tried to, do Powers on the PlayStation Store when they thought that was going to be a thing?
Plus and users got like 14-day early access, and it just... There was Powers and Tester. Powers wasn't even terrible, but it was hard to find. Even like for you and I that were on the PS3 store at the time. I think it was PS3.
Because Testers was like way before. It was a couple years before that. That was like their first run, and then they did the Powers thing exclusive on the PlayStation Store, which like it's so crazy to think that Sony even tried that. Back then, but now they're saying like, oh, let's just bidding wars. Like, why should we try and force everyone on our platform? We already have all the gamers on our platforms. There's no reason to just try and like jam all this content that people are going to just ignore.
But then there was always the perception, and there was always the perception, and it was the reality, is that you needed to have a PlayStation to watch Powers, and that's just not the direction you want to go. Like this. Whether I don't even know. Like, you can plug so many things into into any. If you have an HDMI port, and just as something as simple as a Google Chromecast, like you can almost watch anything through the apps now. So, having this like anything locked behind a platform is just not a good idea. Like, people, as long as you can mirror your phone to your TV, or I've seen people that even, I think my daughter does it at school most of the time. Like, she just watches something on her laptop now. She doesn't even really watch it on TV. She'll have her tablet propped open, and she'll be working on her laptop and watching a show on her tablet. Like,
so like, no, that's definitely the case where everyone is just like kind of watching anything. So the idea that back then they were locking it to like, you have to buy this console that's like $200 to $400 depending on whenever the Powers came out, it was kind of crazy. But like, back to the TV show, I've been trying to picture like what this TV show is going to look like, and I can't quite figure out what I would want.
I think of most of the shows that they're talking about. I think this. I mean, obviously, like Uncharted was doable, but like this is like this next step of like what I think is doable. Like you can make some CG crazy creatures that Kratos fights, but like at his core, like Kratos is a human being. I mean, he's a god, but he's a human being. But
do you think they do the covered in the ashes, like, or can they go origin story and just kind of ignore that? Like, visually, I'm having a hard time.
I mean, I think he has to be
Kratos.
I think he has to be the grayish, whitish color. Like, I think he has to be.
Yeah.
So,
but like, how big is he? Because he's pretty big compared to other people in his world. So that's where there's like a little bit of a disconnect in my brain.
The Rock would be an amazing Kratos.
Oh God, he would be. Only if they can dub a better actor over
voice.
him.
Yeah.
Body type. But like honestly, if they put Batista,
yeah,
like Drax in like dress him up like Kratos, probably can pull it off because he's like an abnormally large human being, to where you can probably get away with like a Batista. Obviously,
but the scary part is that
better actor.
They probably get like a no-name actor to play him.
Yeah.
But
because I think the voice actor for Kratos, he's probably in his 50s. I guess you could probably make it work. I just don't know. Like, he's in shape, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he doesn't.
Would it matter if his voice,
like the face of Kratos? Like would his voice fix the cosmetic of his face? Like maybe. But
it would come down to the acting at that point.
I'm not saying that his face is bad cosmetically, but it's not Kratos.
Yeah. But who knows, Amazon, because at a certain point, Amazon wants to make it their own thing. But obviously, you go too far away from it, and it's
not God of War. It's just God of War by name. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, here's a guy with an annoying kid.
Well, that's been the thing, too. I've seen some headlines recently, like, everybody's, like, freaking out that, like, Master Chief is going to take his helmet off in the television show. Like, what is he supposed to look like? Nobody knows because you've never seen it. So they can do almost whatever they want. It's like, what is Link supposed to sound like in Zelda? I don't know.
Oh yeah, and then that was the thing that like Nintendo was totally on board with doing a Netflix show, and then it was like Netflix like they're gonna talk, and Nintendo was like maybe not.
Well, Link has talked in a cartoon.
Yeah, but that is like Nintendo when they lost their way with that whole era of Zelda and Mario cartoons.
Excuse me, princess. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't know. I have a hard time picturing Kratos though. This is one of those things where Amazon's very like all over the place with the content they create. So part of me was just like, man, if they waited, HBO probably would have, after The Last of Us becomes a hit, would probably have been like, what else you got, Sony? And we could have got like a really cool HBO Kratos. But we'll get Amazon and see where that goes.
Yeah, I just want at this point in time, I just want to see some of these television shows like we talked about last week. Like I'm gonna watch the Halo show just because I'm interested in how they're gonna turn Halo video game into a television show.
And it's got a second season, so you kind of feel comfortable like investing in this first season.
That was always the worst feeling. Like there was plenty of shows that I watched, and I remember watching even like in the last 10 years or so, like this is really good, and then I'm like, hey, what happened to this? And it's like, oh, mid-season cancellation. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah. So at least Halo. Like Halo sounds like it's obviously safe because it's got season 2. The amount of money they're investing in The Last of Us seems like that's almost a sure. Like, yeah, we're probably getting like 2 or 3 seasons guaranteed. Especially,
I just feel like The Last of Us is a safer story bet than Halo. But again, I haven't played Halo like the other ones before. But in terms of like the story dynamic, I'm sure that it's amazing. But I think that the ability to branch off with Last of Us is easier.
Well, no, because if you look at like I don't like The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead has like 5 spin-off shows. It's gone for like 6 seasons because at the end of the day, it's just about the humans. Right. It's not necessarily about like the zombies or the obstacles they're facing. It's like character moments, and you're going to be able to do that with The Last of Us, which probably saves them time. And then especially in The Last of Us lore, they kind of get used to living in those scenarios to where like the zombie budget can go down over time. And it's okay because it's just like, oh, civilization's coming back. God of War, the TV show, is going to require budget at all times.
Just CGI in general.
Yeah, like it's going to be an expensive
undertaking. If you put the world serpent in God of War, like that's a financial commitment.
And then you also, because you have something that's going to require a lot of CGI, people are always going to compare it to the video game. And if you look slightly less better than the video game, then you're done before you start. Which is something Halo is probably going to have to deal with in the future of just like, as they do their big moments, if it doesn't harken back to the Bungie days.
If he goes to some iconic base and it's like the pedestal's on the left side instead of the right side, like you're going to get roasted.
Yeah, if the CGI just isn't good enough, it's going to be a whole thing. But we'll move on. This one I kind of just put in it because it kind of cracked me up. Activision is having issues attracting and retaining talent. So there's a financial report, and Activision basically admitted.
You're telling me that a company that has just been recently reacquired and that also has a track record of treating their people like human garbage is having a hard time hiring people to work for them?
Yeah, and retaining. Turns out people don't like to stay at these companies. So in his financial
Or
report,
treating you
they
like human garbage while making you work only on Call of Duty.
yes. So during his financial report, they said they are dealing with a ton of labor shortages and having a horrible ability in retaining talent, and they're blaming it mostly on the California lawsuit against them and the media attention surrounding their company.
Which you caused.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and they also admitted that 82% of all of their revenue comes from three franchises, and it's Call of Duty, Candy Crush, and Warcraft, which goes into what you just said, where people are just stuck making the same stuff. But I thought this was important to bring up because it just shows you that when those interviews they were doing where they were looking at the future of Activision Blizzard and they were worried, makes all it makes so much more sense on why Microsoft was able to acquire them.
And then based on the information that we've received from the Bungie Sony acquisition of like the only thing that this is probably going to do is lower the price that Microsoft is paying for Activision, because we've seen a humongous percentage towards retention goals, like retaining the employees. And like if Microsoft purchases Activision and then has to hire, as an example, 300 people just to get their games back and running, and like they're not going to be paying the money output. Like like we talked about, like Sony wanted Bungie for what Bungie's doing. Microsoft wants Activision for what they own, not for what they make, for what they own.
Yeah. you won't be hearing too much like, you know, the money that is being spent on Activision, that's set in stone at this point. But you won't hear about additional money to retain talent because they're just not there anymore.
Well, I think it's
so you're going to see
cost,
that drop.
Though. Yeah, I think the overall purchase price of this acquisition will be less than what was announced.
I think they're locked in because of the stockholders. Like they told stockholders they were paying $95 per share, so I think they're locked into that.
Okay.
But again, there won't be a separate pool of money, you know, for retention or anything. And if anything, this little bit at the end of it, they also admitted in the financial report that they weren't able to abide by California law by adding a woman to its board, and they blame the Microsoft acquisition on the fact that they couldn't hire a woman because the Microsoft acquisition was just, you know, it caught them by off guard, and they've been too focused on that, even though they've been trying to fill the spot, I guess, for most of last year. And Microsoft,
the other 11 months of the year you couldn't do it. So now in the 12th month when you're purchased, it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah. So this is the type of thing where when stuff like this comes out, I'm sure Microsoft's not happy about this, of just like, what the fuck? And
who lets this political, this PR person release this stuff? Like,
yeah. The problem is this was a financial report, so they had to be completely upfront and honest to their investors. And someone asked
a way to word it.
Because they're the deal for Microsoft, they said didn't start until like mid-November.
I didn't mean to say political relations. I'm sorry, public relations.
Yeah. So,
it's late,
but that's that aspect of it. I'm sure someone at Microsoft is just like on the phone the next day, being like, "Really? You're going to blame us for this?" And just for that, your parachute that we're going to give you is going to be a little less bulky,
a little bit more light.
Yeah, and that is what's currently happening in Activision Blizzard. This thing is going to probably take forever. Like when reports like this come out,
suing them too now for like somebody's suing to stop it, right?
Yeah, the stockholders feel like they're being lowballed, I believe. Like they wanted more money.
Yeah,
but it's like
not when this stuff's coming out, homie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like be happy with
take your money and run fast.
Yeah. Especially the investors are suing to stop it, but like, okay, you're successful. You have stopped this acquisition from happening.
Now make the company make more money to make it worth your time. Oh, you realize that they can't do anything, but maybe Microsoft could have.
Yeah, so your stock is now worth nothing. So I don't really understand how that lawsuit even works. Just people being bored. But yeah, it turns out if you treat people like garbage, it's really hard to hire new people, and Activision's finding that out, which is just... I'm believing more and more in my head of just like, oh, maybe Microsoft just guts everything once they get it, and then just are like, cool, we have these franchises and we already have 23 studios.
We have
so
Candy Crush that's going to just print money backwards by itself. We have, Warcraft that's going to continue to most likely decrease, however slowly decrease in its users, and still generate a huge amount of revenue. And we can release a Call of Duty game, and even if it's trash, know that, which it wouldn't be, know that it will be a top 5 selling game for that year without question.
Yeah.
So,
and as proven before, it doesn't matter who's developing it, because most of the people don't pay attention to who's currently developing it. So if
we can release your entire back library on Game Pass and get an X amount of a couple million additional subscribers that are giving us $10 to $15 more a month.
Yeah. Would the average consumer care that 343 Studios developed the next Call of Duty?
Yeah.
No, they just care that a Call of Duty came out.
Yeah.
So news like that does not help any of the transition stuff, though. Last bit of news before we get into what's delayed. PlayStation announced a state of play for Wednesday. I'm only mentioning this now because it will be all out and decided by the time this posts on podcast feeds. So we can sound stupid for making random predictions. They did do the thing that I love that PlayStation does, that Nintendo does. They give you a heads up. This is only going to be 20 minutes. It's going to be PS4 and PS5 games, and there is going to be a focus on Japanese published games, though there will be a couple games from around the world included in this. Dave, any hopes, dreams for this?
I think for a lot of people, I hope that they see something for Final Fantasy 16 at this point, right?
Yeah, I keep going back and forth in terms of like...
Well, I'm sorry, right off the bat, it's 20% or 25% of this time frame will be spent on Ghostwire Tokyo.
Oh, god damn it.
I don't I see the look on your face, so you didn't realize that, but that is being made,
coming out, and it's being reviewed right now by people.
So this is their last surge to sell this. So at least 20% of this time frame is going to be on Ghostwire Tokyo, and another 10 to 15% will be on Final Fantasy 16. So now we're almost at half of it on 16 and Ghostwire Tokyo only.
So you're saying 5 minutes of Tokyo?
Yes.
And 10 minutes of Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, I can totally see them spending 5 minutes.
5 minutes on each. So that's half the show.
Okay, so yeah. Do you think Final Fantasy 16, because it's a Final Fantasy game, deserves to have its own state of play, or specifically mention in this, announcement that, hey, we will be talking about 16?
Yes. Well, are we supposed to get it this year?
We were supposed to get it in maybe spring, summer, but then they said they delayed it, but they didn't say when.
I think that this would be the time that you show something cool and you date it, or window it of holiday 2022 or something, and you window it, and then you have more time later in the summer or in September, October to give it its own dedicated state of play. But this is after Gran Turismo, and then we're going to talk about it. But I don't think it's exclusive anyways. I don't remember, but Forspoken's been pushed.
Well, it's Japanese published, but it's Western developed, so we'll get into that in a couple minutes.
Right. But is Forspoken exclusive or not?
It is. Yes. It is PS5 exclusive.
Yeah, sorry, I was having a brain freeze there. So that's been pushed. So, and featuring Japanese studios, and I saw a little bit of on Twitter, and people were like, Japanese studios, where? Who?
Well, that's the thing. Well, they specifically said like partners and publishers, which means your Square Enix, your Capcom. Maybe we see Street Fighter here. Yeah. Since we only got the teaser at the other one, that would qualify as a Japanese developer. Square Enix would then be Final Fantasy 16.
What's the Bayonetta-like game? I saw it on Twitter a little bit today.
The one that just bombed that came out 2 days ago?
No, not Babylon, but week? Something that Sony's I feel like, or that Sony has a partnership with. Like, I'd have to find it. I could be just pulling a string entirely.
Because, oh my god, you want to talk about Babylon's Fall? Like, Platinum being bad Platinum? And then, like, a week prior being like, yeah, we want the Bungie deal, and then they release Babylon's Fall, and it's just like, you're not getting the Bungie deal ever. I'm trying to think of which game.
Yeah, because they're saying there will be no PlayStation VR 2 titles or hardware in this broadcast. So there's specific,
and I don't think, I put this in the notes, I don't think we're going to get anything Project Spartacus, even though last week people did have their accounts entitlements get swapped, where PlayStation Now people had their entitlement say PlayStation Plus or PS Plus people showed that they have PS Now. I think that is a Sony working on the back end, but I don't think you do anything related to PlayStation Plus services during the state of play, because that would just be kind of like boring, nitty gritty shit that you wouldn't put in a 20 minutes like sizzle reel that basically this is. I do think a lot of people, we're going to get a Final Fantasy game this week, but it's not going to be 16. It's going to be the
Project Eve.
Oh yeah, that was announced. We get that, but that is like a 2024 2025 game, I believe.
Right. So that's like the Bayonetta looking game, right?
Yeah. So maybe that. I do think we'll probably end up, because it's coming out in like, I think it comes out this month. The Final Fantasy Stranger's Paradise game is probably the Final Fantasy game we'll get at this instead of 16, which will disappoint a lot of people because I don't think anyone's really excited for that Final Fantasy game that's coming out this month. So hopefully we get something. I want there to be a 16 something, just because it's been like 4 state of play since, and we haven't really had anything come up from that.
Yeah, since that big announcement, it was a huge deal. It was a big announcement. It was a huge deal, but it was also leaked prior to that announcement. So
yeah, so they definitely need something, because I don't think we'll get the Team Asobi, the Astrobot team. I think they're working on a PSVR game.
VR2 stuff, yeah, for sure.
So we won't see anything from them. But hopefully we're wrong or we're right. Who knows? We'll find out.
People
Thursday.
Be laughing at us now when they listen to this Thursday morning.
Yeah, and they're like, they got nothing.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Which is common. So.
Yeah, but that's all I had for news.
All right,
this week.
So we do have a couple of delays, sadly. Like previously spoken about, Forspoken. The game Forspoken has been delayed till October 11th. Original release date was May 24th. I'm actually sad about this. I've seen a little bit more around Forspoken lately, and it looks super, super interesting. It's something that I thought was in a great time in the month of May, because it's really, really bleak. After like Easter to like 4th of July is really, really bleak looking right now, and now it's even more looking. Gotham Knights, please get your butt into the right spot ASAP.
God, I'm hoping that Gotham Knights is one of the games from around the world that they're going to talk about tomorrow, because God, I just want to know it's alive and well. I need to put that on a milk carton, just because I'm worried.
It's something I want, and I want it so bad. And then the Batman movie being out is not helping. Helping my desire to want more Batman stuff. So
over or under, if this delay will prevent Square Enix from coming out saying they were disappointed by the sales of Forspoken.
That happens anyways.
I know, it's a Western developed game, I believe too, so it's almost a guaranteed lock. But will Square Enix say anything about Babylon's Fall? Because I believe they're publishing Babylon's Fall, which isn't Western developed.
No, because they'll be in their own little bubble. It's probably in that company's contract. You can't talk bad about us. It's uncouth. And then in another game that's just in development hell even when it's released, Halo Infinite's co-op and Forge delayed to later in Season 2, originally expected at the start of Season 2, and the multiplayer creative director has also left the studio.
Just a double whammy, because I think Friday they announced the delay, and then Monday it was like, multiplayer lead is leaving the team as well.
Now the multiplayer at its core, I thought was solid. Like it had a good foundation. So maybe what this guy did in terms of directing it, or whatever direction 343/Microsoft is trying to take it now, he's like, yeah, I'm out. But the foundation is still solid. I just think they made some dumb choices in terms of XP locking and decreasing XP. Like it's just not a good idea.
And just the length of the season, because right now Halo Infinite feels stagnant. Because the season it's going on too long and it's not done. It's still got another month or two.
Full disclosure, the only saving grace for this, and I've been saying this for months, is that there is minimal risk to an extent with Halo Infinite's multiplayer because it's free to play. If they fix it and people like it, there's no risk of investment. And then, this is great. Now I'll invest. and I'll buy I'll buy the progression faster. I'll buy the season pass. Like, oh, now they've done, like, we're 6 months out. Hey, they got season 2. Season 2 is good. Oh, now they're talking about season 3. Season 3 looks even better. Okay, I'm game. Like, I'm in.
Yeah. It's a shame that, like, Halo Infinite, like, it didn't have, like, the best launch in terms of, like, stability, but it had a good launch for a multiplayer game. And it just seems like they just fumbled, because I was happy with it up until like December, and then we rolled into January, and then I was just like, I'm done.
Okay, yeah, you're
like,
60,
I have
you're
nothing
60
to do.
or 70 days into a season, and you're like, okay, I can tolerate this for another 2 or 3 weeks. I can take a break. I can come back in 3 weeks. Oh, the next season's in May.
Like, yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the people at the top are going to be like, why didn't Halo turn into the next Fortnite? And it's going to be like, because you guys fucked up. It's nothing on the community's end. It's, you started pretty well where everyone was talking about Halo for like a month, and then they just didn't have a game plan with what to do for the rest of the year or the rest of the season. And it's just, I don't know, season 2 better have, one, be shorter, but also have an actual roadmap and have stuff to do throughout the season, because I feel like they ran out of stuff to do. But then at the halfway through this season,
Microsoft has done such a great job of damage control with Game Pass, where they're like, all right, well, Halo's shitty, but hey, you get Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, oh, cool. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. But in terms of, like, they're lucky they named this Infinite, because then they can make an excuse on why they don't make another Halo.
Yep.
But, like, they can't really do anything right now until they get this going.
But they have the ability to come October or November say, hey, look at all the stuff we changed 1 year out, our 1 year anniversary. Look at what we're doing. Our seasons are now 12 weeks. Like, they can say our seasons are now 12 weeks and use that as a bullet point when 12 weeks should be the standard. But they can
There's
be like,
less.
hey, we're listening to you guys, and we've compacted our seasons down to the same length of time that a normal season is. Like,
yeah, I just want them to be in a place where they can survive enough to go through 2023 and take advantage of there being no Call of Duty potentially, because, like, I just don't see Halo Infinite being, like, at the top of anyone's minds come a year from now, based on what it currently is at. We'll see what happens with season 2, and maybe having co-op and Forge delayed, towards the end of season 2 will end up doing them a favor, because then there's something now at the end of the season to look forward to.
Yeah, so I mean, if this comes out, season 2 starts in May and it's bland, but then it's season 3 is like August, and then season 4 is November, and then those are hitting, and those are getting things and getting the loops, and they're figuring out, like, ways to keep the player playing, instead of, like, I think you had said it a month ago or 6 weeks ago, you're like, yep, I sign on, play my 4 games, and then I play another one and I realize I'm not getting XP and I walk away.
Yeah, and that was an improvement over, what previously was, because I still think it's one of the best playing Halo games.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best
multiplayer
experiences.
If you don't see a bar filling up, you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and I didn't realize how much of, like, an animal brain I had until I was playing that game, and I'm just like, oh, I don't see progress. There's no carrot. Like, I don't care. And I haven't played it since. Actually, I haven't turned on my Xbox in about a month.
Yeah.
But that's just because there's just been a lot of stuff on PlayStation to play, for the most part. But
I mean, I played the hell out of it in January and February, obviously, with some of the stuff, and but I mean, like, I own Guardian, so that's not going to get me go back in there. I'll go back in there for MLB, because that's probably going to be the only way I get to watch baseball right now.
Man, MLB is going to get so many extra sales for that.
Yep.
I can't wait for MLB Network to just play simulations of MLB The Show.
Hey, we're gonna take it live to the streamer that's playing their regular season as the White Sox, and where you guys could just watch it every Tuesday night at 7:00 at night.
Dystopian futures.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for news and delays. What we're playing and watching, again, it'll be somewhat of a compacted what we're playing and watching. So for me, it was still Witch Queen, Destiny 2, the Witch Queen. I did the raid on day 1 with the contest modifier. I streamed it, and it was tough, as I expected. I did actually, our clan did clear the first encounter, which full disclosure, contest modifier, no matter what your power level is, automatically caps you at essentially 2 levels below what you're playing. So there's nothing you can do to get yourself any higher. Like Destiny's known for being on power. You can be on power or over power level. This one automatically handicaps you under power. And it also, I think they haven't publicly came out and said this yet this week, but I predict that this will be the most played day 1 raid that Destiny or Destiny 2 has ever had. They pretty much came out and said, you're smashing our servers. Like they did the thing, they had to do the thing on raid day of where if you were a free to play player, you were not prioritized onto getting onto the servers. So they said if you own an expansion, I think it was a expansion, not the expansion, not Witch Queen, but if you're an expansion owner or a season pass owner, that you were prioritized over anybody that was just like a free to play player. Mm-hmm. There during the raid race, they were like, cause like the whole reason they put this contest modifier on is because they do have a big deal of doing the raid race for World's First. The same Team Asylum, I believe, got World's First again. They've gotten 2 in a row now. But there were people getting error coded, soft locked in the game because of the server connections. Doors weren't opening. Our team was having some minor issues with rally flags, which allow you to like you start the encounter and you have like all your ammo and everything given to you. You don't have to rely on finding ammo bricks. But it was fun. The mechanic is interesting. A lot of you popped in and out of the stream, and that was super helpful. I was just streaming from the PS5, sitting on the couch, and it was fun. Just the challenge. And now it got extended, and normally it's just 24 hours. It got extended to 48 hours because of the server issues. And then they turned the modifier off, and this is what Destiny is. Like, we were having a problem in the second encounter getting the boss down to half health. And now getting the boss down to half health on damage phases on floor 1, floor 2, and floor 3. And now we're getting him almost to half health by like floor 2. Like it wasn't even mattering. The raid aesthetic was really cool though. Like you're in a pyramid ship, and they've been teasing pyramid ships for years. It's what the darkness comes in on, and we were on a pyramid ship, and it's really cool. I haven't completed it yet. I will complete it, I'm sure, sometime maybe this week, but I'm out of town. We're going to North Carolina for a wedding, so I'm not as much as in a hurry to necessarily complete it because I have all year to play it. But I do like the fact that our team was able to progress and complete an encounter. And the encounter that we got stuck on, a lot of people got stuck on. So, But it was fun. And you know, I can't fully speak on how successful Witch Queen is or isn't right now without, you know, they're still kind of balancing the seasonal content, and the core Throne World Witch Queen story was fantastic. And I don't know enough about the raid loot to tell you if I think that this whole entire expansion in general is up there yet. I probably won't be able to have that answer for another 2 weeks or so. But yeah, I watched a little bit. I finished Peacekeeper on HBO. I got it was only 8 episodes long, which is a little disappointing. Very interesting storyline. I don't know, as many of you guys know, I'm not a huge comic book reader, but I do think John Cena as the Peacekeeper character did a good job. I was interested in the storyline, and I will, if they do more, which I think they are, I will check it out. So it's on HBO Max. It's good. It's gory.
It's on my list of stuff to watch. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I mean, I wouldn't rush to it. It's there. You know, if one of those days that you're not feeling well, like, oh, I'll watch a couple Peacekeeper episodes. You know, like, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's nothing that I'd like, oh, you gotta see it. You know, like, it's nothing like that. So, that's it for me.
Yeah, for me, it's Elden Ring has kind of consumed me, which
Seems
is
like it's
crazy.
A lot of people.
Yeah, it's I'm not a From Software person. You know, I tried Demon Souls, couldn't really get into it. Tried Demon Souls when it came to PS5, couldn't get into it. Tried Bloodborne, couldn't get into it. But something about Elden Ring and its open world aspect is just calling to me to where I'm just absolutely addicted to just finding stuff, because it is a gigantic world. Like, I'm constantly amazed how big the world is, and then it just does things because it doesn't explain stuff to you. You know, you have your map, it's covered in fog, you uncover stuff as you go through it, but then you can find pieces of the map and then it'll fill in the map for you, but not in the traditional sense of like, you know, a Horizon or an Ubisoft game where it's just like, oh, here's every icon when you find the map charted on there. It's like, no, it's an actual map where there's just like little like drawings on it to where it's like, okay, that looks like that could be a castle, or that looks like something that could be interesting, but I'm going to have to actually go there to confirm what it is. And then finding mini bosses or big bosses. And the game is still, you know, the From Software super difficult aspect of it. But I'm starting to understand what, you know, like all my friends that are into Dark Souls and, you know, Demon Souls have been saying, to where it's like the games aren't necessarily difficult. They just require a different level of patience that years of gaming has stripped away from us. You know, like we back in the, you know, the old RPG days, you know, like going back to like old Zeldas, to where it's just like, yeah, you're going to fail sometimes and you're not going to know why. And then you're going to figure it out over time, or you have to learn patterns and very specific movements of some of the enemies. And that's all From Software is asking of you. It's just like, hey, you are going to die, but you're going to learn something every time you die. And then it's just going to be a matter of you having the patience to know when to strike.
He raises his left arm and hits me with his right arm. Okay, so when he raises his left arm, I'm going on the other side. And then you go a little farther. Like, oh, when he picks his leg up, he drops a hammer. Like, okay, you know, like...
Yeah. And you know, like there was one instance where a character was just beating the shit out of me. And it was at a certain point, I'm like, okay, let me just step back and let them do all their animations that they want to do. And then realize like, oh, so they do 4 different attacks. And then the 5th attack, their blade gets stuck in the ground.
Yeah, it's the 2022 version of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah, you just have to be patient. And it's something that, like, the times I've died are the times where I just think it's another video game. And then it's just like, okay, slow down and, you know, figure things out. And there are instances where I just run across a boss that I'm just not capable of beating because I've just not leveled up enough. But the good thing is, because this is an actual open world game, I could just leave that area and just come back and be like, you know what, I am not ready to be here.
You're not bottlenecked and stuck of like, I have to stop playing because I can't beat this guy because I'm not good enough.
Yeah, and that's what the other games used to do, to where it's just like, I can't progress anything because I can't beat this, so now I got to go back and grind. This is almost good for ADHD, so where you're just like, oh, I can't do this, I'll find something else to do. There's something else I can find. Yeah. And the game just, there's so many little secrets in the world, and then there's so many interesting creatures. Some of the most intimidating creatures you think are going to be tough, and then you actually you knock them out and you do well. And then some of the other ones that you think aren't going to be a big deal are the ones that do the most damage. But this sense of discovery is just really keeping me in there. And something I'm kind of like surprised I like is, because the map is just a blank map, they give you the ability to drop keys on the map, or, you know, like icons on the map. So like I'm just going around the map adding my own, you know, legend to the map, or my own like little icons to the map, because it's just like, okay, there's a big bad over here, so let me put the skull icon right here, and I'll come back to that later. So if you look at my map, I just have so many different things marked on my map.
But that's cool. Like, you're like, all right, I think I'm strong enough now to go mess with this white skull. Like, oh, like I'm not going to go to the red X for a while, like, or something, as an example. Yeah,
like I like have a, you know, I cleared a couple castles, so I'd put little diamond shape on them, so I know I don't have to go there anymore. Just because of the way they have their maps built out, it's very easy to get kind of lost without putting those icons on there, which is why they give them to you.
A game of that many hours, like you could, you know, in hour 10 clear that castle or that dungeon, and then somehow trip upon it again in hour 70 or 80, and you might not remember that you were there.
Well, no, and it's definitely happened a couple times where I approach something, I'm like, have I been here? And then I walk in the door and get killed by something. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been here. That's happened a few times. But there's just something that is fun, because like, there is the first boss I killed, I think I was way too weak leveled to kill that boss. So then when I killed the second one, I was like, oh, the second one was way easier than the first one. It's just, I just went in my own order. And right now I'm kind of at the part where, I might have to grind a little bit more to like get some of the areas cleared that I'm really interested in. But the world, I'm still discovering everything, still unlocking stuff, to where it's just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to circle around a map, and then hopefully by the time I do the circle, I'll be strong enough to get through this area. And even if I do get stuck and I hit a bottleneck, I don't mind. Like Elden Ring is a game that if I don't finish, I don't think I'll be upset because I'm already getting so much enjoyment out of the 12 hours that I've already put into it. So I'm just really into this, and this is like surprising that I'm like really into a From Software game at this point. To where like this and Sifu are like at the top of my list now for game of the year. I know we're only in March, but like I keep my list throughout the year, and this is up there. And you know, I haven't played, Horizon yet. I probably won't be able to play Horizon until like the summer. So
you still got to do the first one, right?
Yeah, but Sarah played the first one and I watched it because it was during lockdown. So it'll probably just be both of us playing the second one. But Elden Ring just showed that, man, we're having a really good first half of this year. I have no idea how the rest of the year's going.
For me, like Nobody Saves the World, and then Horizon and and Horizon and Witch Queen. Like, I mean, I'm gonna play Forbidden West next, and and there are a couple things that will help ride us out. But like you speaking well about you speaking well about Elden Ring makes me think that maybe like this summer or this fall, like it might be something I might mess with. Like, will I play it? Will I complete it? Probably not. But could I mess with it? Maybe.
Because there's something. So. Yeah, it's somewhat approachable. Like, it's still going to be difficult because it's like I don't think necessarily this is like we talked about it where people are saying, "Oh, this is the most approachable game," and it isn't. It isn't. It's just because you have more options in this game in terms of you have more control on your path, and it's more approachable that way. But in terms of like, did they make the combat any easier, or did they make things less dense? No. It's still, I have no idea what the fuck's going on in the story. Like, none at all.
But that's kind of what happens with an open world game. So like my oldest son is home. He's been home for a couple of days. Him and I were talking the other day about he was talking about he went and saw the Uncharted movie with his fiance. And I was like, oh, and I hadn't realized, I guess, that he hasn't completed all of the Uncharted games. Like, he's messed with some of them, and he's seen me play bits and pieces of it. Like, he knows enough about what's going on. And he enjoyed the movie, but he was talking to me about Ghost. We bought him Ghost of Tsushima for Christmas digitally, so I can play it too. And that's on my list as well. And he was kind of talking, like, I don't know the exact thing that he was saying, but when you play Ghost of Tsushima, I guess you have some, like, a bird that kind of alerts you to things that are going on. And he's talking about, like, that thing just keeps chirping at you all the time because, and I'm like, well, that's an open world fatigue thing. And he hasn't really messed with them too much, but, Elden Ring could, suffer from that too, of like the constraints that I feel when I still have like PTSD from like Batman Arkham games with the phones ringing, like you worry about you're missing something. It's part of the reason why like I really don't mess with Assassin's Creed games anymore. You climb the tower, you open up the thing, and then to your point, you see like 14 little icons on your screen, like, oh, I want to check them all, like.
Yeah, and Elden Ring is the opposite of that, where it's just like, they don't even tell you what's a collectible. Yeah. I ran across a painting, and I was like, I don't know what this does. Click it. Game didn't tell me what it does after I clicked it, but now I'm just like, oh, I ran across a second painting, so I guess there's paintings for me to collect. Mm-hmm. I'm finding collectibles, but they don't explain what they are. Therefore, I don't feel like an OCD need to like, oh, let me go find all of them.
I have 7 of 9 paintings. Okay, I'm going to go find the other 2. You don't even know how many paintings there are.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's the thing. I let a lady hug me in a part of the game, and it turns out I shouldn't have done that. The game did not explain that was going to be a bad decision, but apparently that was a bad decision. Like, there's this like weird aspects to this game, and the only reason I found out that like don't let the lady hug you is I was scrolling looking for news for this podcast, and there was a news article that said, don't let the lady hug you. She takes away 5% of your health. And I'm just like,
yeah, I saw somebody say, oh, I just beat a boss with a negative 5% debuff or something like that. I didn't even know I had it.
Yeah, and that might be the debuff that I'm talking about. But like, the game doesn't tell you. You just discover things. My friend who's put like 40 hours into it, I was looking at his character's like costume, and I'm just like, what the fuck? That looks amazing. But I haven't found any way to like really upgrade my costume or my outfit in any specific way, but I found a tailoring kit, but I have no idea how to use it.
Right.
And I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to hope I figure it out myself.
Yeah. Like somehow you stumble across something that somebody's like, hey, I see in your inventory you have this thing. I can help you with this. You're like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So super enjoying Elden Ring. That's all I've been playing. Sorry, Dying Light
Love
2.
comes with a price. For you dogs, so
Basically,
yeah,
yeah.
Rogue 77 in the chat. Love comes with a price. If you love the lady, you lose 5% of your health.
It just they trick you because she's in the safe zone, and they say no harm can come to you here. No, I'm lying. But yeah, so I did that. That's all I've been playing. Dying Light 2 kind of just fell off a cliff for me, where I'm still trying with that, but I just it. There's a reason why they released it before Horizon and before Elden Ring. They knew they had a window, and it's just really hard.
They hit
to
it. They hit the
balance
window
it.
that they
Yeah.
needed to hit. But for people that are maybe in their backlog or are playing or were kind of planning out their year, it just doesn't fit. So
Yeah. So that's it for playing. I watched AEW Revolution on Sunday. Fantastic wrestling show. Like, that was a good pay-per-view. The MJF CM Punk match is one of the better storytelling moments in wrestling. It's one of those things where even I can, if I show Dave clips of like the lead up stuff, like a highlight reel of like the promos they did before the match, you would be able to get some enjoyment and follow along the story, which I think is rare for wrestling to be able to do a story that isn't embarrassing or cringe. They basically gave one of the bad wrestlers, the heel wrestlers, an origin story. They gave him a villain origin story and tied it into another wrestler's entire career in an interesting way, even though they never interacted up until a couple months ago. So AW really good, but oh my god, wrestling shows do not need to be 4 hours long. Like, I love wrestling. I cannot sit through 4 hours of wrestling. I had to watch it over the course of like 2 nights because it's a big ask to be like, hey, sit down for 4 hours of wrestling, even though every match was good.
Sit down for a movie and a half.
Yeah, and this isn't like, the Super Bowl's like 4 hours long, but there's at least commercials in between it.
Halftime shows, you can get up and walk away, like
a wrestling pay-per-view, you have like 10 to 30 seconds between matches, and it's just like, oh god, like I don't know how the crowd was able to like stay active throughout the whole show, but they were, and bless them for it, because like you definitely need the crowd pumped for that entire time.
I saw a headline today. I didn't click on it. I saw it. I don't remember if I saw it on Facebook or on Twitter, but is Steve Austin doing something for WrestleMania 38?
Yeah, they're teasing. They've been asking him.
His neck like fractured like 9 times.
So he was still he broke his neck like in 97.
Yeah.
And he was still able to wrestle until 2003. The only reason he retired is he didn't want to do a story angle. Like he retired healthy.
Okay.
They've been trying to get him out of retirement since 2003. And apparently they have finally thrown so much money at him that he's willing to do something.
Okay.
And he's picking a wrestler he can have like a good match with, not like an amazing like match that's going to put him at risk. They found not
a steel cage ladder match or something.
Yeah. They found someone who's a safe worker that will make him look good, and I think that's all he cares about, is like getting paid and not embarrassing himself. And also, WrestleMania is in Texas in the Cowboy Stadium, so they're trying to pull everything they can to sell out that stadium.
Okay.
So Steve Austin sounds like he's coming back.
When is WrestleMania 38?
April 5th or something like that. First or second week of April.
Like, I don't know enough about wrestling, but isn't there like there's a physicality to it of like I haven't seen Austin recently, but I mean, do you think he's in wrestling shape?
So he looks like, he does like a TV show on like USA
or a podcast.
Network.
He's got a big podcast too. So
Yeah. He looks like at least when we see his arms, he looks like he stays in enough shape. I don't know what he'll look like if he takes his shirt off, because he's like a 55-year-old man. But
he's gonna look like 50 Cent. That's what he's gonna look like.
his style of wrestling never really required him to like.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was hand to hand for the most part. Like,
hand to hand and stomps. That's literally all he really did.
He was a character. He was like one of the first characters, like his beer and all that stuff. Like, so
it's not like The Rock. The Rock is stuck forever having to be in crazy shape.
The Rock is stuck forever being The Rock. Like,
Austin can get away. Like he literally would just drink beers after matches. So it's like no one's expecting the Stone Cold to be.
Nobody's gonna
be
shocked if he has a beer belly.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for the person he's fighting, Kevin Owens. Like it's someone who's also not in crazy shape. So it's just it works out for them.
All right.
But yeah, watched AEW. That was a really great pay-per-view. Just like WrestleMania is 2 nights, so they're gonna do like 6 hours of WrestleMania. I can't sit through all that.
WrestleMania is in a month, less than a month.
Yeah,
April 2nd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So first week of April.
Wow.
And it's 2 nights. So
2 4-hour nights.
I think last year was 2 3-hour nights.
Okay.
So we'll see if we can. I can get through that.
All right. You watch anything else?
No, that was pretty much it. Just Elden Ring and Elden Ring.
Okay.
Like.
All right. Questions and comments. You can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays like Anthony Allen did. He said, "Why are board games exclusively the domain of cardboard or mobile? I'm a board game junkie, and it seems to me like there's a huge opportunity for revenue missed on consoles. Catan would lend itself well to a console iteration. Lords of the Deep, Terraforming Mars, etc. I don't know who any of those games are. Do you guys play board games?" This is definitely more of a question for Michael, however, because I know Michael plays board games, I believe. And
sometimes.
Yeah. For me, I would totally be game for a digital board game to play, whether, even like against somebody like my brother or even my son in Kentucky, or against any of the other group of friends that I have that play video games with. A broad statement like, hey, it might be cool to play Monopoly once a month with like 6 people from across the country. Like that would be, fun. We do have a good time periodically when there's enough people at home playing Uno on the TV with our phones. Like those things, those are fun. And the thing I love about them best is I don't got to shuffle. I don't got to clean them up. I don't got to put them away. So I would be, I'm old school, but like playing the game of life on console, like cool, sign me up. Like against Michael in Chicago, like, and we could just, play the game and then jump offline or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm game. Like,
so for me, like, I play board games every once in a while. Last game I played was Red Dragon Inn, which is like a more like card based board game. But yeah, no, I totally would play more like board games if they came to consoles. Like I remember. I think it was on a PS4. There was like a Risk one. That was actually pretty good. The Monopoly ones have been okay. But like on PC, there's actually quite a lot of like board games that are on PC. To where on Steam, I think it's Tabletop Simulator, which is like a really good online multiplayer. It uses real, like actual name brand board games in it. That some of them are like hard to find or expensive, but they're affordable because they're digital.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like if you want to play board games online or as a video game, PC is where you need to go. Unless you get like the, I don't know, Dave, if you saw Arcade 1-Up has the Infinity Table, which is basically a coffee table that's just a TV screen.
Yeah, I try not to look at Arcade 1-Up because my wife will get mad at me.
Yeah, so they have one, and it's basically, it's just a TV screen table.
Because I still want my Ninja Turtle cabinet.
Oh god, I see that so much, and I'm just like, I want one too.
I know.
But this one is just basically like, hey, you can buy digital board games, and since it's just a coffee table screen, you have virtual pieces on it, and you can play that online with other people. Like, that is cool, because it still has like something physical in front of you that you can interact with, and I guess transitioning a lot of board games to controller just doesn't work unless you do something like Risk or Uno.
The phone, like the phone's the controller,
yeah. But like again, like on PC is like where you want to be at, especially like there's Tabletop Simulator, and then I think there's Tabletop Creator, which just lets the community make their own board games. And guess what the community does? They just adapt real life board games and put them up for download. So there's PCs where you want to be at. I bet you
there's probably like a crazy Discord server for that kind of stuff too. Like
for sure. You can probably pick up a game out of nowhere from that Discord server.
Yeah. But I'm just saying in terms of like people to play with, or you could probably make some, like cool, cool friendships online with people that like play an obscure board game, like your point,
Yeah.
So. All right. Stefan Wren writes a question for the podcast and the community. Am I crazy? Yeah, you are, but because you're asking this question again, but you just worded it backwards instead of forwards this time. Let me try and explain. I recently bought Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, Elden Ring, and have pre-ordered GTA 7, Gran Turismo 7, knowing full well it could be months until I get around to them. My wife says I am crazy paying full price for a game that will just sit in my backlog for months, maybe years. I, on the other hand, want to support the developer by paying full price, and I have a weird OCD that I can't start a new game until I've completed the one I'm currently playing. And since I love massive open world RPG games, I love a trophy or two, this can take months sometimes. So what do you guys think? Should I listen to my wife and not buy games until I will play them, or stick to my guns? Happy gaming, everyone.
Okay. So you're crazy, should listen to your wife, but I totally understand your point. But I think there's a middle point. There's a middle ground you can meet here. And that is support smaller developers day one because it actually matters for them. Horizon and Elden Ring are going to sell millions, if not tens of millions of copies, and your day one purchase isn't going to be that much of a difference maker in terms of it getting greenlit for a sequel or the developers getting paid. So you can hold off on those until you beat one of them. But I totally understand wanting to support like a smaller developer because that is actually going to help them more than when it goes on to a crazy Steam sale or the end of the year PlayStation sale and they're putting the game out for $5.
So there's the difference. So I want to talk about this. So like I'm assuming, and I think I know Stefan pretty well for the last couple of years. He buys physical media, which is fine. You're weird, but it's fine. So I'm assuming you're going into, and he lives in England. So I'm assuming you're going into, as an example.
If you got that wrong, he's going to be so pissed.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm right. But you go into Target in England, okay, and you buy Horizon Zero Dawn for Horizon Forbidden West, okay? Great. Target already bought the game. You're buying it from Target. You're not buying it from the developer. If you were buying these games digitally, then the developer technically gets probably more of a quicker cut. But Sony already sold those games to Target. What Target does with them is not Sony's problem anymore. Target already paid Sony.
To a certain extent, but yeah.
If the game sells really well, Target tries to buy more, which means that Sony gets more. Yes, but they already know. Like to your point with Horizon, Target already knew how many games they wanted. Like they already had statistical data that told them what they needed. Now, is that something that they will need more later? Probably, but to your point, you're more giving money to Target. You're not gonna make or break Horizon's success. You're not gonna make or break Elden Ring's success.
Now, if it's a smaller game, like Sifu's going to be physically, maybe it's more beneficial to like a Devolver Digital or a Slow Clap.
Yes.
To purchase from them day one physically, because then it shows the retailers like, oh, this small game did pretty well. We should order from them more next time. But From Software, Bandai Namco are not going to be like, damn, if we sold one more physical copy day one, it's not going to be the end of their business structure.
Like as an example, I really enjoyed it in January. You guys heard me talk about it. Whenever Nobody Saved the World comes to Switch or PlayStation, or like Michael talked about, the Switch boxes are cool. If they do something interesting with, I don't think you can even buy Nobody Saves the World physically right now, and hopefully with the success of it, it does good enough to where I will buy Nobody Saves the World physically or something for it because I want to support it and I enjoyed it on Game Pass. And that's helping Drinkbox. I like Drinkbox. I enjoy their games and that's helping them. Am I going to make or break, as an example, I can't think of it. Starfield. Starfield's going to be available to me on Game Pass. If I play it and I enjoy it, am I going to feel bad that I didn't buy it from Bethesda? No.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't at that point.
Right. So.
So and also put it this way, like Elden Ring's going to go on sale before Horizon.
Yeah.
just because it's a Bandai Namco game.
Yeah.
I know you love Ubisoft games. They go on sale real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if they're really successful, they go on sale to $40, sometimes less, within like a matter of 2-3 weeks.
That's the developer most of the time doing it, and then the stores just follow suit.
Yeah, and put it this way: if you wait a couple of weeks, you save $20. You can just put that $20 to more games, and then you can make your backlog even bigger. Because I know, Stefan, I don't think you like playing video games. I think you just like your backlog growing. Like, at this point,
well, and now you're screwed in general, because I've seen you in a different group chat with in PSN group chat, and you're playing multiplayer games now. So now you're just borked. Your backlog is just done.
I think you're addicted to building your backlog more than anything.
You're addicted to adding to the pile more than playing the pile. So
yes, you want to be
you like all your blue boxes.
You want to be Scrooge McDuck in his money pile, swimming around, but you just want it to be sealed games that you're going to open one day. If you just wait a couple weeks, get them on sale, you could just buy more games, and you just keep this building, and then your backlog can last forever. So
I love Stefan. He's been around for years.
I know. We're just giving him shit. But yeah, no. Horizon, Elden Ring, Gran Turismo. If you buy it day one versus 3 months, you're still supporting developer. They don't really. It doesn't matter.
I almost feel like it's kind of different. Like we were just talking about the game that's delayed. It's almost buying Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West and Gran Turismo and Elden Ring. Elden Ring's a little different, but Bandai Namco is fine. I almost think purchasing a game like Forspoken is more important than purchasing a game like Forbidden West.
Yeah, well, because that's like a new IP. That's like something that, you want to show Square Enix, like, hey, we want more of this. And also hopefully avoid them being like, it sold below our expectations. But also, I think the developers and publishers actually kind of appreciate when their game sells 6 months later, because then they can point to a chart and be like, look at the longevity of our sales. People are buying this 6 months later, which is why you usually see the aggressive price cuts 6 months into a game, in like Sony's case, or why Call of Duty doesn't put their games on sale until like a year out. So then they can get their game to chart again a year out when they're like, oh, it's $40 now. And then a bunch of people end up buying it.
Yeah. All right. So that's our show for this week. We're good. We're right around the time frame that we shoot for, a little shorter, but we're fine. Everybody's getting a chance to catch up and do all this stuff. So you can follow us on the social medias for Twitter, especially. Main account is at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC. Sorry, at the first MJC. With a 1 ST in the middle there. And then mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server, like I mentioned at the start of the show, Patreon, Teesprings, PayPal, all those things are linked in the show notes. Those are different ways you can support us if you choose to, as well as the best way to support us is always listening to the show, like many of you have already been doing, so thank you, and downloading and reviewing the show. It's super helpful. If you stream the show, I don't know how that works, but if you could download it, that'd be great. Whatever.
Streams count as downloads, so you're good.
Yes, sure. If you could review the show, that would be fantastic. If you could review the show with words, that'd be fantastic. And then sharing it to people. Just tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. So we get some more people playing games with us and hanging out and having a good time when something good multiplayer-wise comes out that a lot of people like to play. So, Patreon episode is live for February. It's Angela and I talking about Uncharted. I got a little bit of feedback on that already, so thank you guys for sending that. If you want to subscribe to that, the patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming link is in the show notes. And that's it. So I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.